After 10 years of being a personal trainer, I'm quitting. And in this video, I'm going to explain why. I've been meaning to make this video for a while because I feel as though I owe it to my friends, my family, and most importantly, my clients to explain the decision that was made and the transition that is going to occur. And truth be told, this transition started years ago. It's not something that is necessarily new. If you are new here, my name is Jacob Beneventi. I'm the owner of Limitless Transformation Coaching. We are an online fitness coaching business with a studio here in Scottsdale, Arizona. That is where I'm sitting right now. Our goal is to work with leaders to help them transform so that they feel better, look better, and lead better. Before we break this down, I need to define what personal training is. Personal training is the skill of teaching people how to properly train. It is when somebody who is certified or who has a degree works with an individual to teach them how to lift weights and do it in a way where they're going to get stronger and prevent injuries. Now, this is a valuable skill set and a skill set that if you work in fitness, you should have. And the skill of personal training is still an element of what will occur at Limitless. However, I do know that personal training holds people back. It holds back the trainer who's facilitating the work, and it holds back the client who's looking and expecting transformation. Here's why. Personal training does not guarantee results. Knowing how to properly train does not guarantee results. You could properly train for years, and maybe you have been. That doesn't mean you're gonna go from 35% body fat to 15% body fat. It just doesn't. I know many people who train for years and never see any body transformation. If you walk into any commercial gym, you will see trainers with their clipboards and their clients. Both parties are frustrated. The trainer's frustrated because they're working terrible hours and getting paid very little. The client is frustrated because they're working hard, paying a bunch of money, and seeing no changes. The client's also frustrated because the only time they can train is when they can meet with their trainer. So when they go on vacation, when the holidays are around, or when they can't find the perfect time in their schedule, then they can't get their workout in and they're out of luck. The trainer becomes a paid friend and a therapist, and the client stays stuck. But why do people work out? Why do you hire a trainer in the first place? It's because you want to see some changes. You want to see changes in your body. You want to see changes in your confidence. You want to see changes in your strength, in your attractiveness. After 10 years of coaching, that's what I've seen from my clients. That's what they've communicated they want. And if I'm honest, that's exactly what I want too. That's why I work out. Being in business, I have one job. That is to provide the greatest amount of value to my customer that I possibly can. It just so happens the people I work with are very ambitious and they demand results in all aspects of their lives. And when I got into training, when I got into personal training, it didn't take me long to realize that the work done in the gym is a very small portion of what leads to results. Early on, I would notice that about half of my clients would transform and see a ton of changes very quickly. And about half of my clients would be frustrated because they weren't seeing their physique transform. The problem was most of my clients were getting insane progress in the gym. They were getting stronger, they were getting more confident, they were becoming more proficient with their form, but some were transforming and some weren't. And I was curious about the ones who were. What were they doing? I knew it had to be what they were doing outside of the gym that was really creating the change that I was seeing. It wouldn't be uncommon for my clients to ask, how long will it be before I start to see changes in my body? Changes that I can really notice. When am I gonna be able to see my abs? When am I gonna see veins? How long does that take? And back when I was 19, I would respond with, well, it kind of depends on how hard you work in the gym, how committed you are outside the gym, how clean your food is. And that's what I would instruct people to do. I would tell them to stay away from junk, focus on clean food. If you really wanna be dialed in, to track their food. And this was solid advice, especially back in 2015 when we didn't know what we know now. Though it was solid advice, it wasn't necessarily systematic advice. It didn't ensure that the people who I was working with would get results. It just pointed them in the right direction. When I opened this studio in 2020, I became obsessed with the formula for transformation. You know, over these last 10 to 15 years, social media has become more and more popular. We spend so much time on our phones. And though we are bombarded with information and good insights, it seems like all of that information was leading to confusion for most people. So the question I went to answer was simple. How do I help my clients get the most results in the least amount of time with the maximum enjoyment of their life? I didn't know it at the time, but this was the beginning of crafting the Limitless method, which is the system we have used to transform hundreds of lives. It is a 5-step system that is simple, but when you combine all 5 elements, it leads to predictable results. Because the way in which it was designed to eliminate any excuses or any limitation that somebody might have on their pathway to transforming their physique and changing their life. In the last couple of years, I really stopped identifying with this term personal trainer because that's a very small portion of what we do at Limitless now. Limitless is in the transformation business. These days, most of our clients are remote clients. They're not local here. They don't come into the studio. And for our clients who are local, most of them are hybrid. They don't just come in and work out a few times a week. They have programming that they can follow if something pops up at work, so they can go to their own gym. If they're on the road, they have a game plan for their training and their nutrition, and they have accountability so that they're staying in stride week by week, no matter if it's the holidays, they're traveling for work, or if they have a really busy, stressful week. And the whole frame when somebody comes in now isn't, oh, I want a personal trainer, I want to learn to work out. No, people come to Limitless with the expectation of transformation. If somebody gets to the point where they're working with us, they've seen 5, 10, 20 stories of transformation, lives that have changed, bodies that have changed. And that's the beautiful thing about fitness, it's tangible. So when you see somebody like you who's completely transformed, it installs the belief that you also can transform. And you can do it while being busy. You can do it while building a business. And because all of our clients are leaders and high capacity people who are executives and business owners and leaders of others, it becomes really easy for our new clients to see all of those busy people who might have built-in excuses of being busy or not having that much time, who still found a way to transform because they had a system that was perfectly tailored for them, their lifestyle, and their goal. So I'm not leaving fitness. I'm more invested and more passionate about serving people through fitness than I've ever been, but we are no longer a personal training business. Personal training is a small part of what we do, but what we really help people do is transform. And our mission is to help as many leaders transform as possible. The reason we love working with leaders is because people look up to them. And so when the leader, when the owner, when the executive, when the manager, when the individual in charge transforms, it inspires everybody who they lead to do the same. When people think about Limitless, I don't want them to think about personal training. I don't want them to think about a personal trainer with a clipboard counting reps. I want them to think about the place that people go to transform their identity, to become the person they know they're meant to be. And that's exactly what we'll continue to do. We'll continue to tell those stories, we'll continue to execute those transformations, and we'll continue to find more people who are intent on changing their life. So yes, I'm quitting personal training to focus on something much better, transformation.